and welcome back to another episode of our Little Talks Together podcast. I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Charlie. Evelyn, today we are talking about something that affects us all, anxiety.
Exactly, and how it's affected you, Charlie. We live in a fast-paced world. If we're not careful, the world outside simply swallows us up, and we become anxious easily.
That's true. And the worst part is, this anxiety can make us miss out on great opportunities or stop us from pursuing something we desire so much, whether it's a career dream, a new relationship, or even learning a new language.
Often, the fear of making a mistake is greater than the desire to succeed, and that's where our story begins today.
First of all, if you're interested in stories of overcoming challenges, language learning, and personal growth, we ask for your support. Please subscribe to the channel right now, hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next episodes.
Woohoo! Enjoy! And leave your comment below. We want to hear your opinion. What makes you so anxious? Have you ever been in a situation where anxiety got in the way? Share your experience with us. All right, back to the topic. We live in a fast-paced world. If we're not careful, the outside world simply swallows us up, and we become anxious easily.
And the worst thing, Evelyn, is that this anxiety can make us miss out on great opportunities or prevent us from pursuing something we so desire, like, in our character's case, fluency in a new language.
Oh my gosh. And that's where our story begins today, Sofia's journey.
We introduce you to Sofia, a smart and dedicated young woman. But, like many, she fights a daily battle against anxiety, which becomes stronger during moments of challenge.
Our story begins on a morning, just like any other. But Sofia's challenge was huge, a crucial presentation, and she had to deliver it entirely in English.
Let's see how the fear of making English mistakes almost stopped her from shining, and how she found practical and pedagogical ways to overcome it.
Sofia worked at a startup and had been assigned to present a project. The small detail: the presentation would be entirely for a new international client.
The anxiety was no longer a silent race, but a chorus of voices screaming in her head, all in English, of course. You're going to mess up the pronunciation of the technical terms.
What if you freeze? What if you forget the simplest words?
Everyone will notice your accent. They'll think you're not competent.
Sofia's heart was beating so hard she thought she could hear it in English. Thump, thump, thump.
She closed her eyes and remembered her therapist's advice. Focus on what you can control. Take one small step.
The small step. The first step would be to write the presentation script. She took a deep breath and began to type. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
And surprisingly, the chorus of anxiety began to fade, replaced by the soft sound of the keyboard. It was just one sentence, but it was a complete and correct one. The first brick of the wall had been laid. Evelyn, check out this story on the same topic related to anxiety, now involving a young apprentice.
Whoa, I'm already curious to know.
His name is Arnold. I ran into him a few days ago near my condo, and he asked me how the podcast project was going. I told him it was going very well, still in the beginning stages, but slowly moving forward.
Really? What did he say then?
Well, that's when he started telling me about the beginning of his journey at the company where he now holds a prominent position.
Oh, I remember that story. I immediately started taking notes and putting everything on my iPad so I wouldn't lose a single detail, because honestly, it was incredibly inspiring. And you know what's interesting? Today, as we talk about anxiety and hear Sarah's story, I ended up remembering Arnold.
You're right, that connection makes total sense. Tell us, what happened with him? The title of his story could be Arnold's Trial by Fire. Arnold was 18. He was clutching the laminated badge hanging from his lanyard, the plastic digging into his damp skin. He was the new junior apprentice at Zenith Holdings, an immense building of steel and glass, a symbol of high finance for someone who came from a simple, quiet neighborhood. That place seemed more like a steel fortress than an office. But his problem wasn't the work. It was the suffocating anxiety, that constant knot in his stomach, and the mental voice that kept repeating, "What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you mess up the one job you need?" His family depended on his income, which only increased the pressure. The critical point always came at the same moment: the elevator. Arnold needed to deliver confidential documents across 15 floors, and that meant facing that metallic box full of executives. On a Tuesday, he was assigned to deliver the CEO's lunch and an urgent report. He stepped into the elevator, trying to control his breathing. But before the doors could close, Mr. Sterling, the company's most feared vice president, entered with two managers. The air seemed to vanish. His hands started sweating, his heart raced, and suddenly the report slipped from his hands and scattered on the floor. Total silence. Arnold froze. His mind screamed, "That's it, it's over, I've lost my job." That's when one of the managers, Eleanor, bent down, picked up a few pages, and said calmly, "Breathe deep, Arnold. The folder is color-coded. Pick up the blue ones first." He clung to her voice and the breathing technique he'd learned in therapy. Gradually, he calmed, collecting the papers one by one. When the elevator reached the 14th floor, Eleanor gave his shoulder a slight tap and said, "You're fine. Now go deliver that report with your head held high." And he went. He delivered everything without any further problems. But that night, he made a different decision. He wrote an email to a supervisor telling her about the anxiety attack, not to justify himself, but to ask for support and guidance. The response was empathetic. She set up a weekly check-in, adjusted his tasks, and showed him that vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage. Arnold never completely eliminated his fear, but he learned to recognize and face it. He realized that true strength isn't in hiding your weaknesses, but in asking for help when you need it.
What a beautiful story, and so real. How many times do we try to hide what we're feeling, thinking it's a weakness, when in fact, it's the first step to freedom?
That's right. Transforming anxiety into learning. That's the challenge, and also the beauty of moving forward.
What we learned as a lesson today. 1. Anxiety is universal, but manageable. Both Sofia and Arnold show that anxiety is not a personal flaw, but a common human experience. Everyone feels it at some point, especially when facing pressure, uncertainty, or exposure. The key lesson is not to avoid anxiety, but to understand and manage it.
2. Small steps create big change. Sophia's story highlights that progress begins with one small intentional action, like writing the first line of her presentation. This reinforces the idea that breaking big challenges into smaller, controllable parts helps quiet the noise of anxiety and builds momentum.
3. Vulnerability is courage, not weakness. Arnold's story teaches that admitting your struggles and asking for help is an act of bravery. When he shared his anxiety with his supervisor, he didn't lose respect. He gained support and understanding. Opening up creates connection, not judgment.
4. Empathy transforms environments. Eleanor's calm, compassionate response in the elevator changed the entire outcome of Arnold's experience. It shows how a single act of empathy can turn a moment of fear into a lesson of resilience. Supportive people play a crucial role in helping others manage their anxiety.
5. Focus on what you can control. Both characters use the same core strategy, grounding themselves by focusing on what's within their control. Whether through breathing, writing, or mindful focus, this lesson reminds us that control starts internally, not externally.
6. Growth comes through reflection. Both Sofia and Arnold both transformed their anxious moments into opportunities for growth. Instead of letting fear define them, they reflected on their experience and found meaning in it. Anxiety, when faced with awareness, becomes a teacher.
7. Transformation begins with perspective. The podcast concludes with the insight that anxiety isn't necessarily the end of the road. It can be a gateway to learning, empathy, and personal development. By reframing anxiety as part of the growth process, we turn pain into purpose.
And that's it, folks. We've reached the end of another super inspiring conversation. We talked about anxiety in work routines and that small window of possibility for change.
Exactly. And now we want to hear from you. Use the comments down below to tell us, what's your work routine like? And more importantly, do you see any possibility of breaking out of it, even just a little? We'll be reading everything, so let us know.
While you're at it, if you enjoyed our chat, don't forget to hit the like button on the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing.
It's the best way to support our work and ensure we bring you more conversations like this.
That's all for today, but stay tuned. Very soon, Evelyn and I will be back with a new and exciting conversation right here on this channel.
A big hug to everyone.
See you later, everyone.